truly astonishing and one-of-a-kind creatures that, over thousands of years of evolution, have developed genuinely phenomenal acrobatic talents and extraordinary agility. Thanks to these abilities, they feel completely at ease and supremely confident in the most extreme environments where, at first glance, any form of life seems utterly unthinkable and impossible. Their natural habitat is the harsh, unforgiving realm of sheer icy cliffs, impenetrable vertical rock faces, and razor-sharp ridges, places where virtually no other large mammal dares to venture or climb. Nevertheless, every summer these incredibly resilient even-toed ungulates are compelled to abandon their safe, nearly inaccessible high-altitude strongholds and undertake a perilous descent into the lower valleys below, where hungry and ever-watchful predators are already lying in wait, ready to strike. Hello, dear friends and wildlife enthusiasts. You're watching the Noctera channel, and in today's episode, we are going to dive deep into the truly remarkable and legendary mountain goats, the undisputed masters of the highest peaks. Those remote, almost mythical summits of the Rocky Mountains across North America can hardly be described as a welcoming or hospitable environment for living beings. Here, bone-chilling cold penetrates constantly, ferocious gusts of icy wind lash relentlessly, and vegetation is so sparse and scattered that survival appears to be an almost insurmountable challenge even for the most highly adapted organisms. For precisely this reason, very few animals manage to inhabit these brutal high-altitude zones. Yet mountain goats stand out as an exceptionally rare, genuinely extraordinary, and utterly fascinating exception to that general rule. These even-toed ungulates grow to quite impressive dimensions. The length of their powerful body often exceeds 1.5 meters, while the weight of mature males frequently surpasses the 100-kilogram mark and can approach significantly larger figures in some cases. And yet, despite possessing such substantial size and robust build, these true nomads of the loftiest mountain ranges have transformed themselves into absolute virtuosos and unparalleled experts in the art of rock climbing. Their cloven hooves, equipped with razor-sharp edges, enable them to grip even the tiniest cracks, ledges, and irregularities on stone surfaces, while their extraordinarily powerful and well-developed leg muscles grant them the ability to traverse extremely steep rocky inclines, with slopes exceeding 60 degrees, with astonishing ease and graceful precision. And all of this at staggering elevations reaching up to 4,000 meters above sea level, and sometimes even beyond. The outer portion of the hoof boasts remarkable hardness and durability, providing reliable traction and stability on slippery rock, whereas the inner soft, elastic, and cushioned pad functions like a natural shock absorber, perfectly conforming to every irregularity of the terrain, dampening impacts and vibrations effectively. This flawless natural mountaineering kit, combined with their thick, very long, and strikingly bright white, almost blindingly brilliant, coat, enables mountain goats to endure the harshest and longest winters while remaining perched directly on near vertical cliffs and precipices. In these spots, they make do with extremely meager and scattered plant food concealed beneath thick layers of snow and ice. In order to survive under such ruthless and unforgiving conditions, these remarkable ungulates are forced to display true dietary opportunism, consuming virtually any available source of vegetation they can possibly locate. For the majority of the year, mountain goats prefer to stay well above the tree line, in that zone where even the boldest and most daring predators typically hesitate to pursue or disturb them. However, once a year they must undertake a dangerous journey downward, to natural mineral licks and salt deposits that serve as their vital, almost exclusive source of essential mineral nutrients. It is precisely during these vulnerable migrations that everything can suddenly turn into a life-threatening ordeal or tragedy. For instance, an encounter with a cougar, also known as a puma or mountain lion, is entirely possible. An exceptionally agile, cunning, and seasoned predator that navigates steep cliffs and narrow trails just as skillfully as the mountain goats themselves. Yet such confrontations occur so infrequently and irregularly that the cougar has simply never developed a refined, effective hunting strategy specifically tailored to these particular animals. Mere courage and aggression alone are clearly insufficient to successfully overpower such masters of balance and equilibrium. Within mere moments after an unsuccessful attack attempt, a young and relatively inexperienced predator suddenly realizes the complete absurdity and hopelessness of the situation. Its intended prey has absolutely no intention of panicking, fleeing, or running away. The greatest weapon of mountain goats lies in their fantastic capacity to maintain perfect balance even on the tiniest ledge overhanging a bottomless abyss. This self-assured male doesn't merely stand calmly on a narrow shelf of rock. He actively wields his sharp, dagger-like, almost sword-sharp, horns. The clawed paw of the cougar undoubtedly poses a serious and potentially lethal threat, but in addition to their very dense and thick fur, the goat is further protected by an exceptionally tough, leathery hide that is extremely difficult to pierce or tear open. By loudly and menacingly stamping his hooves against the stone, he first forces the opponent backward, then launches into a vigorous and determined counterattack, driving the confused and disoriented predator into the most awkward and hazardous corner of the cliff. The goat's complete composure, icy calm, and unshakable confidence stand in stark contrast to the rapidly escalating panic and fear overtaking the cougar, until finally the big cat wisely chooses to retreat, conceding total defeat in this encounter. No lesser, and sometimes even greater, danger comes from grizzly bears, brown bears. Driven by intense hunger, they frequently resort to the most desperate and hazardous actions. In order to secure food for their cubs, a female may dare to chase prey across treacherously steep, slippery, and unstable rocky slopes. The herd usually escapes the bearess with relative ease, yet she stubbornly persists in the pursuit. At some point, she manages to close the gap significantly, forcing the goats to scatter in different directions, and compelling the predator to make a difficult choice about which one to follow. But the outcome is almost always predictable. For the mountain goats, this is merely another familiar route across well-known terrain, whereas for the bear the chase turns into an exhausting, draining ordeal in which strength and energy deplete at an astonishing rate. Even when a family group is caught off guard, they still possess very high chances of survival and escape. Pressing its body tightly against the very edge of the precipice, an adult female goat attempts to intimidate and repel the attacker with loud vocalizations and aggressive posturing. To a young, inexperienced bear, such prey appears incredibly tempting and seemingly easy, but despite possessing impressive claws, its paws are utterly unsuited for confident movement across near vertical, precipitous slopes. The risk of a fatal fall is far too great. Just one misstep or wrong move could send the predator plummeting into the abyss with deadly consequences. As a result, the bear has no choice but to lose patience and reluctantly withdraw. If, extremely rarely, the encounter takes place on relatively flat, open lowland terrain at the bottom, the situation reverses dramatically in favor of the predator. Here the grizzly bear feels far more confident and at ease, gaining real opportunities to catch up to and overtake its target. Despite its massive and heavy physique, this is a surprisingly fast, enduring, and powerful hunter, so pursuits across open ground often end unfavorably for the hoofed animal. With the arrival of the mating season, male mountain goats begin actively settling disputes among themselves, establishing dominance, hierarchies, and displaying strength. However, unlike bighorn sheep, they almost never engage in direct head-butting clashes. A single precise and forceful strike from a sharp horn can inflict devastating, often fatal, injuries and wounds on an opponent. Toward the end of spring, pregnant females temporarily separate from the main herd, retreating to secluded, sheltered locations to give birth in relative peace and safety, usually to a single kid and occasionally to twins. In these extremely harsh and merciless conditions, even the very first minutes and hours of life represent a genuine, severe trial of endurance for the newborns. Almost immediately they must independently navigate dangerous, steep, and slippery sections of rock, because only in that way can they keep pace with their mother and survive. Very soon afterward, together with their mother, they will embark on an even more perilous and risky journey downward. In addition to grizzly bears, black bears may also appear along the route. They are generally considered less aggressive and dangerous, yet they still pose a real threat to the young. However, the most terrifying and deadly enemy for the little kids remains the mighty golden eagle. Towering mountain cliffs generate powerful updrafts and thermal currents ideally suited for effortless soaring, which is why these enormous avian predators have firmly established themselves in these austere, inhospitable regions as well. Their hunting technique has been honed to perfection. A sudden, lightning-fast dive from above, a powerful grip with razor-sharp talons, and the unsuspecting victim is instantly hurled into the void below. That is precisely why a vigilant mother never relaxes her guard for even a second. She does everything possible to shield her offspring with her own massive body, providing reliable protection against aerial assaults. This greatly complicates the eagle's task, considering that the body mass of an adult female mountain goat can reach 90 kilograms or more, making her a far more challenging target. On the journey to the vital mineral licks and salt sources, dangers are not limited to predators alone. After a long, snowy winter, mountain paths and routes are further complicated by turbulent, fast-flowing, swollen rivers that turn into truly grueling trials for both adult animals, and especially the still vulnerable young. But there is no turning back. They must risk their lives crossing the raging torrent to reach the opposite bank. All of this effort is undertaken solely for the sake of that scarce and critically important salt. The everyday diet of mountain goats contains almost none of the essential minerals they require, yet these substances play a pivotal role in the proper growth and strengthening of horns, in the development of high-quality dense fur, and in the overall healthy functioning of every bodily system. Having satisfied their mineral needs and rested for several days near the licks, mountain goats once again ascend back to their accustomed, virtually unreachable high mountain sanctuaries that remain inaccessible to the vast majority of other animals. Overall, predators exert relatively minor influence on the total population size. Far greater numbers perish due to avalanches, rockfalls, and other natural disasters. According to estimates from zoologists and wildlife specialists, roughly 100,000 mountain goats currently inhabit North America, with some older figures placing the range between 75,000 and 110,000 individuals. This is certainly not a huge number, yet thanks to their lifestyle in extremely remote and difficult to access areas, this species suffers significantly less from negative human impacts. At least for the time being, these unique and extraordinary animals face no serious threats. If you enjoyed this episode and found it engaging, please give it a like to show your support, share your thoughts and impressions in the comments, subscribe to the channel so you never miss new exciting content, and spend your time in the most rewarding way possible. Until next time, friends, take care and see you soon in the upcoming episodes.